It's becoming increasingly clear that Donald Trump may be struggling to keep up, and that raises real questions about his focus and overall awareness. While it's certainly a positive that he took the time to visit the hospital for a routine health check, what happened afterward created quite a stir within his team. A social media post he shared following that visit has sparked new discussions about his mental sharpness and decision-making. We're going to break down everything that happened, including how this incident is shaking up his inner circle. Before we dive into the details, please take a moment to like this video, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. It really helps support our work. Now let's begin with the surprising coverage from CNN, where Jake Tapper highlighted several new concerns about Donald Trump's recent hospital visit and his ongoing health issues. Take a look.
Hands. He has had bruises on his hands, and we've also seen pictures of swollen ankles. These are all, legitimate photographs and actual things. What is going on here?
Yeah, if I can, just for a second, Jake, a little preamble. When we've approached things like this, and I've been doing this a long time, obviously we see the same things that the public is seeing here. A couple things. We hear from his doctors because we want to rely, as you're pointing out, on data, evidence, and facts when it comes to the president's health. We do talk to a team of other doctors as well, emergency room doctors, cardiologists, gerontologists, vascular surgeons, to also weigh in on what's going on with the president. But so when you specifically talk about his ankles and his hands, for example, something people have noticed, what his doctors have said is that this is due to something known as chronic venous insufficiency. Basically, the blood is not leaving the extremities as well as it should, and he gets swelling. It's not uncommon. Over the age of 50, about 5% of adults have it. As you get older, he's going to be 80 next year. Even more people have it, close to 25% of people, according to some studies. So my point being is that it tracks. We see this, what you're seeing on the screen there. They call it chronic venous insufficiency. That tracks. That makes sense. With his hands, that bruising, people who are older can get a condition known as actinic purpura. Basically thin skin on the back of the hands. If you've had a lot of sun exposure, that can worsen it. And it makes those blood vessels underneath the skin very, very delicate and prone to bleeding. And when you bleed like that, because the skin is so elastic, it causes pretty significant bruising, which can look alarming, but a small amount of blood in that space can do it. So again, that tracks. And that is based on what we're hearing from his doctors. And then sort of like just putting it through the sniff test with other docs as well, ER doctors, cardiologists, gerontologists, vascular surgeons. So that's, when we look at these sorts of things, that's how we approach it. What we've been told by his doctors seem to make sense. They say that the bruising on the back of the hand is a result of aspirin use, lots of trauma to the hand from handshaking, they say, but also just older skin. Can look like that over time, Jake.
What more do we know about his health? He was the oldest president to ever be sworn in.
Yeah, well, so, we have basic facts. We haven't gotten the same amount of information about President Trump as we have from some presidents in the past, but we obviously know his age, we know his weight, we know his blood pressure. We know that he talked a lot about the cognitive testing, this screening test for cognitive decline, the Montreal Cognitive Assessment Exam, say that he got a perfect score on that. And then as I was talking about his skin having sun damage, we know he takes certain meds. We know in the past he's had testing that showed evidence of heart disease, but he is taking statins and cholesterol-lowering medications, and again, that aspirin that I mentioned earlier. But that's kind of all we really know, Jake. There hasn't been a lot that has been forthcoming. I will say, again, having covered him,
I just had to start with that clip because this has kind of been the defining news story of the day. Even if it's not the most public-facing conversation, I think it's the most important thing underlying our conversations around Donald Trump. And for CNN to be doing a timeline of Donald Trump's checkups and how this one is kind of out of the ordinary, for Jake Tapper to finally stop selling his book and talking about Joe Biden and addressing maybe the fascist who's losing his mind in office. What a shock. And it was also shocking that Donald Trump on his way to the hospital didn't want to scream at reporters. And maybe that's because, as we see here, Trump walking away, not too happy, not nearly wanting to engage, knows what we're talking about. There he is, not wanting to talk. He knows that we see him as weak. He knows that we understand how ineffective he is. Again, I was surprised to see CNN air that segment, but of course, they should be airing that segment. Donald Trump is in cognitive decline. He has built an administration of yes men that serve him and also prey upon his mental breakdown. But Donald Trump is constantly in his fear feelings. He's angrier than ever. He's lashing out more than we could have expected, and it's why he made a shock announcement in a post today that is blowing up in his face. And I want to take a look at it here. Donald Trump wrote on Truth Social, "It has just been learned that China has taken an extraordinarily aggressive position on trade and sending an extremely hostile letter to the world stating that they were going to, effective November 1st, 2025, impose large-scale export controls on virtually every product they make, and some not even made by them. This affects all countries without exception and was obviously a plan devised by them years ago. It is absolutely unheard of in international trade and a moral disgrace in dealing with other nations. Based on that fact, China has taken this unprecedented position and speaking only for the USA and not other nations who will similarly threaten starting November 1st, 2025 or sooner, depending on any further actions or changes taken by China. The United States of America will impose a 100% tariff on China over and above any tariff that they are currently paying." Governor Gavin Newsom hit back at this insane post, writing, "The government is shut down and the stock market is crashing while our president plays games with our economy. Great work, Donald Trump." Referencing an article in the New York Times headline, "Stocks fall sharply on Trump's renewed threat of China tariffs." Can we just take a moment to talk about how misguided that recent post from Donald Trump was? His comments about trade and tariffs show a complete misunderstanding of how the global economy actually works. The way China handles trade can certainly be debated, but the response from Trump doesn't make any economic sense and could end up hurting American consumers even more. It's like nothing he says connects logically anymore. The policies he's suggesting would raise costs for working families while doing little to address the real problems in international trade. Honestly, it makes you wonder who is giving him advice or if he's even listening to anyone at all. And yes, it's worth remembering that Trump often references the cognitive test he once took, almost as if it's proof of intelligence. But for context, those tests are designed simply to ensure that a person is not experiencing cognitive decline, not to measure brilliance or policy insight. So when he brags about passing one, it's less of a flex and more of a reminder that such tests are only given when there's already a concern about mental sharpness. It's a little sad and honestly embarrassing that a former president continues to treat such moments as personal victories while making statements that rattle markets and confuse his own base. Lawrence O'Donnell summed it up perfectly in a recent segment, and it's worth watching how he broke down just how alarming and absurd this situation really is.
The possibility of a relentlessly stupid person becoming president of the United States has been underexplored by screenwriters. And then Donald Trump came along and went far beyond what Hollywood could ever imagine in the presidency. Prior to Donald Trump, the challenge for screenwriters and fiction writers would have been, first of all, how could a profoundly stupid person be elected president of the United States? And then, how could a profoundly stupid person get through a day on the job as president? The fictional president, played brilliantly by Martin Sheen on NBC's Emmy-winning series The West Wing, was a wildly thoughtful president for whom I wrote several episode scripts over 7 years of that series, and if I were writing the character of a stupid president in a script, I would simply have had the stupid president completely rely on a smart White House staff and a smart cabinet and just hide behind those people. And absolutely, and I mean absolutely, never talk to the press, because a stupid president's stupidity would be immediately exposed by the White House press corps. And on that point, I would have been very wrong, because it turns out the stupidest presidency in American history has the stupidest White House press corps in American history, as far as we can tell. And the press corps have become accessories, as they proved again today. No one could have imagined that if we get the stupidest president in history, we would also get the stupidest White House press corps collectively.
Donald Trump continues to reach new levels of confusion and poor judgment. It's honestly hard to believe sometimes. The decisions and statements coming from him lately are leaving experts and everyday Americans shaking their heads. It's not leadership, it's chaos. And it's having real consequences for the economy and for the country's credibility on the world stage. We're going to keep calling it out right here every single day, because the truth matters, even when it's frustrating to watch. If you want to support this work, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and if you've stayed with us until the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. It really helps the show. And until next time, I will see you soon.